welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fundamental. The human body itself. It's incredible.
It really is.
We've gathered quite a bit, some intro anatomy and physiology texts, a lecture transcript, which is interesting, and some solid online health info.
Good, reputable sources.
Exactly. And our mission, really, for you listening, is to build a solid foundation. Understand how your body's put together, how it works.
It'll feel more informed about your own health, understand medical stuff better.
Right, because even something simple like blinking your eyes, the complexity behind that is just staggering.
Oh, absolutely. The coordination is immense. We often just take it for granted, don't we?
Totally. Okay, so let's dive in. Where do we start? Anatomy and physiology, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense. They're the cornerstones. So, anatomy. What is it? It's fundamentally the study of structure.
Like the parts. What things are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What it is. The word itself comes from Greek, meaning to cut apart. Historically, that's how we learned observation, then dissection.
Cutting things up, basically. Still important in medical school, right?
Oh, definitely. But now we also have amazing tools like medical imaging. We can see inside living bodies, which is incredible. We'll get to that later.
Okay, so anatomy is the structure, the blueprint. Physiology, then.
Physiology is the function side, what it does, how all those anatomical parts work, and crucially, how they work together.
Working together.
Yeah, and a huge part of that is maintaining balance, what we call homeostasis, keeping the internal environment stable.
Homeostasis, right, that internal equilibrium. I've heard that term.
It's central, and this perfectly illustrates the link between the two fields. Structure dictates function. It's called complementarity.
Complementarity, okay.
Think about heart valves. Their shape, their structure is precisely designed to make sure blood flows only one way.
Okay. Structure enabling the function.
Or your bones.
Wow.
Their hard, mineralized structure provides the support we need to stand and move. The structure allows the function.
Makes perfect sense. So the body isn't just a jumble of parts. It's organized.
Highly organized. There's a clear hierarchy, starting really, really small, at the chemical level.
Chemicals.
Element.
Atoms, yeah. Basic elements like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, they combine to form molecules, water, proteins, sugars.
The basic stuff of life.
And then these molecules join up to form bigger ones, macromolecules, like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, nucleic acids, DNA, RNA.
The big players.
Right. Often called organic molecules because they're based on carbon. They do tons of jobs inside our cells.
Okay, that's the tiny scale. What's next at the ladder?
The cellular level. Molecules assemble into cells, and the cell is the smallest unit that can actually function independently.
Basic unit of life.
Exactly. And inside cells, you have organelles, little structures doing specific jobs. Think about the range, though. A tiny red blood cell is maybe a few micrometers across. But a single nerve cell, a motor neuron, could stretch like from your spine all the way down to your toe, almost a meter.
Wow. That difference is huge. How does that even work?
It's amazing differentiation. So after cells, groups of cells working together.
You got it. That's the tissue level.
Yeah.
Groups of similar cells collaborating on a specific function form a tissue.
Tissue. Okay.
And there are really only four main types: muscle tissue for movement, nervous tissue for signals,
Communication.
connective tissue for support and binding things together, and epithelial tissue for covering surfaces and lining cavities.
Just four basic types making up everything.
Pretty much the foundation, yeah. And the study of tissues even has its own name: histology.
Histology, right. So tissues combine to form.
Organs. That's the next level.
Okay.
An organ is a distinct structure made of two or more tissue types working together for specific complex functions.
It's like the heart or the stomach.
Exactly. Or think of the bladder. It needs smooth muscle tissue to contract and expel urine, epithelial tissue to line it and prevent leaks, and connective tissue to hold it all together.
Yeah.
Multiple tissues, one organ, one job.
Okay. Tissues make organs. And then organs.
They team up too. Groups of organs that cooperate for a common purpose form an organ system. That's the organ system level.
And how many systems are there?
Generally, we talk about 11 major organ systems in the human body.
11. Wow. Okay, maybe we can quickly run through them. Just a key idea for you.
Sure, good idea. Let's start with the outer layer, the integumentary system.
Skin, hair, nails.
Right. It's our main protector barrier against the outside world. Plus, it has sensory receptors, helps make vitamin D with sunlight, and regulates body temperature. And, fun fact, your skin is actually the largest organ in your body.
Largest organ. Didn't know that. Okay, what's system number 2?
The skeletal system, your bones. provides the framework, support, allows movement because muscles attached to it.
Right.
It's where blood cells are made, in the marrow, and it stores minerals like calcium.
And how many bones?
Adults have just over 200. We usually divide it into the axial skeleton, skull, spine, ribs, the core basically, that's 80 bones, and the appendicular skeleton, your limbs, arms, and legs, which is the other 126.
Over 200 bones working together. Amazing. Next.
Muscular system. Primarily the skeletal muscles that move your bones, connected by tendons.
The ones we control consciously.
Mostly, yeah, those are skeletal muscles. They allow movement, help maintain posture, and actually generate a lot of our body heat.
Keeps us warm.
Yep, but there are also smooth muscles, involuntary, in the walls of organs, like your intestines.
Okay.
And cardiac muscle, which is only found in the heart. Tireless worker, that one.
3 types of muscle. Got it. System 4.
The nervous system. Brain, spinal cord, nerves everywhere. It's the fast-acting control center.
Like the body's internet?
Kind of. It detects sensory input, what you see, hear, feel, processes it, and activates responses. Think reflexes super fast.
Milliseconds.
Exactly. We divide it into the central nervous system, the CNS, brain, and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, PNS, all the nerves branching out.
Complex communication. Okay, next system.
Endocrine system. This is all about glands, pituitary, thyroid, adrenals, pancreas, ovaries, testes.
Glands making hormones.
Precisely. They secrete hormones, chemical messengers that travel through the blood to regulate slower, ongoing processes. Things like growth, metabolism, reproduction, how your body uses nutrients.
So nervous system is fast signals, endocrine is slower hormonal control.
You got it. And they often work together, along with the immune system, too. It's all connected.
Okay, system 6.
Cardiovascular system, sometimes just called the circulatory system. Heart, blood vessels, blood.
The transport network.
Exactly. Delivers oxygen from your lungs and nutrients from your food to all your cells. It also picks up waste products, like carbon dioxide, to be removed, and helps regulate temperature.
Keeps everything flowing, keeps the pressure right. Vital. Number 7.
Lymphatic system. This one works closely with the immune system. It includes things like lymph nodes, the spleen, thymus, and lymphatic vessels.
What's its main job? Drainage.
That's a big part of it, yeah. It collects excess fluid that leaks out of blood capillaries and returns it to the blood, like a drainage system. But it's also critical for immunity. Lymph nodes filter the fluid, trapping pathogens, and it's home to many white blood cells that fight infection.
So drainage and defense. Cool. Next.
Respiratory system. Lungs, obviously, but also the airways leading to the nasal cavity, trachea.
Breathing.
Right. Its main job is gas exchange, getting oxygen into the blood and getting carbon dioxide out. It also helps control the body's pH balance.
More than just moving air. Okay, number 9.
Digestive system.
Okay.
Or gastrointestinal, GI system. Mouth, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestines, plus accessory organs like the liver, gallbladder, pancreas.
Processing food.
Yeah. Breaks down food, absorbs the nutrients your body needs, and gets rid of the indigestible waste. It's actually really long, about 30 feet in total.
30 feet. Wow.
And it interacts a lot with other systems. Hormones from the endocrine system regulate digestion, and the nervous system, like the vagus nerve, plays a role too. Some organs, like the pancreas, actually belong to both the digestive and endocrine systems.
Multitasking organs. Interesting. Okay, nearly there.
Number 10. Urinary system, sometimes called excretory or renal. Kidneys, ureters, bladder, urethra.
Waste removal, like filtering blood.
Exactly. The kidneys filter waste products from the blood to produce urine, but it also controls water balance, regulates electrolyte levels, helps maintain pH balance, and even plays a role in regulating blood pressure. Super important for overall balance.
The body's filtration plant. Got it. And the last one, 11.
The reproductive system. Different organs in males, testes, etc., and females. Ovaries, uterus, mammary glands, etc.
For making babies, basically.
Fundamentally, yes.
Yeah.
Produces sex hormones and gametes, sperm, and eggs. And in females, supports the development of an embryo and fetus. It's unique because it's the only system not absolutely essential for the individual's survival.
But essential for the species to continue, obviously. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
all those 11 systems working together, that leads us to the top level.
The organismal level, the whole individual you. It's where all these organ systems cooperate, function harmoniously to keep the organism alive and healthy.
It really is like an orchestra, isn't it? Each section playing its part.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so we've got the structure, the organization. What about the fundamental things this body actually does to qualify as living? the basic functions of life.
Right. There are several key characteristics. First is organization itself. Maintaining boundaries.
Boundaries, like compartments.
Exactly. Keeping the inside separate from the outside. At the cellular level, the cell membrane does this.
Mhm.
For the whole body, the integumentary system, the skin is the major boundary. But even internally, organs are compartmentalized.
Keeping everything in its place. Makes sense.
What else? Metabolism. This is the sum total of all chemical reactions in the body, all the building up and breaking down.
Building up and breaking down.
Yeah. Anabolism is building complex molecules from simpler ones that uses energy. Catabolism is breaking down complex molecules into simpler ones that releases energy.
Like digesting food releases energy.
That's a classic example of catabolism. And the main energy currency the body uses is a molecule called ATP adenosine triphosphate. Think of it as the cell's rechargeable battery.
ATP. Got it. Energy for everything. Next function.
Responsiveness, or irritability sometimes called. It's the ability to sense changes, stimuli in the internal or external environment and react to them.
Like pulling your hand from a hot stove.
Perfect example of reacting to an external stimulus, or your body adjusting blood flow when you stand up. That's reacting to an internal change.
Adapting constantly.
Yeah.
Okay, what else defines life?
Movement. And this includes more than just walking around.
Like muscles contracting.
Yes, but also substances moving within the body. Blood circulating, food moving through your digestive tract, even tiny things moving inside cells. Movement at all scales.
Constant motion, even when we're still.
Right.
And the last one.
It's actually a cluster. Development, growth, and reproduction.
Okay, unpack those a bit.
Development covers all the changes the body goes through in life. That includes differentiation, where cells become specialized.
Like a stem cell becoming a nerve cell.
Exactly. It also includes growth, which is increasing in size, usually by increasing cell number or the material between cells. And finally, reproduction, making a whole new organism.
So changing, getting bigger, and making more. The cycle of life.
Pretty much sums it up.
Now, you mentioned homeostasis earlier, that balancing act. It sounded really important. Can we dig into that a bit more? How does the body do that?
Absolutely critical. Homeostasis is all about maintaining relatively stable internal conditions, even when the outside world is changing. Think temperature, blood sugar, blood pressure.
Keeping things just right.
Exactly. There's usually a set point, an ideal value, and a normal range around that point where things can fluctuate slightly. Losing the stability, if it's irreversible, leads to disease or death.
So how does it stay in that range, like a thermostat?
That's the perfect analogy. Most of it works through negative feedback.
Negative feedback. Sounds bad, but it's good.
It is good. Negative feedback reverses a change that's pushing things out of the normal range. It brings it back towards the set point.
Okay, how does that work?
There are 3 parts to the loop. A sensor or receptor detects the change. A control center, often in the brain, compares the current value to the set point. And an effector, a muscle or gland usually, carries out the response to correct the imbalance.
Sensor, control center, effector. Okay. Example.
Blood sugar regulation is a classic one. You eat, blood sugar goes up, sensors in the pancreas detect it. The pancreas control center releases insulin, the signal. Insulin tells body cells, effectors, to take up glucose from the blood, bringing blood sugar back down.
Ah, so the response counteracts the initial change.
Exactly. Temperature control is another one. Too hot. Sensors detect it. Brain initiates sweating, effector to cool you down. Too cold. Brain initiates shivering, effector to generate heat. Always trying to get back to that 98.6 Fahrenheit or 37 Celsius set point.
Negative feedback keeps things stable. What about positive feedback then?
Positive feedback does the opposite. It intensifies the original stimulus, pushing the variable further away from the normal range.
That sounds potentially dangerous.
It would be, except it only happens in situations where there is a specific endpoint or goal to be reached quickly. It needs an off switch.
Okay, like what?
Childbirth is a textbook example. Early contractions push the baby's head against the cervix, stimulus. Nerves send signals to the brain, which releases oxytocin. Oxytocin makes the uterus contract even harder, intensified response. More pressure, more oxytocin, stronger contractions until the baby is born. That removes the pressure on the cervix, the stimulus stops, and the feedback loop breaks.
Ah, the endpoint stops the cycle.
Right. Blood clotting is another example. Initial clotting factors activate more clotting factors, amplifying the response very quickly to seal a wound. Then other mechanisms stop it once the clot is formed.
So positive feedback is for rapid amplification to a specific goal. Got it. Now, talking about all this involves a lot of specific terms, right? You mentioned Latin and Greek.
Definitely. Anatomical terminology is like a specialized language. It needs to be precise and universal to avoid confusion, especially in medicine. Miscommunication can have serious consequences.
So standard terms everyone agrees on.
Exactly. And yes, many terms come from Greek and Latin roots. Often, a term has a root indicating a body part or condition, maybe a prefix modifying it, like hyper for high, hypo for low, and a suffix.
Like hypertension, high pressure.
Perfect example. Hyper means high, tension relates to pressure. Understanding the building blocks helps decipher a lot of medical jargon.
Okay. What about just describing where things are? That always seems tricky.
That's where the standard anatomical position comes in. It's the universal reference point.
How does that look?
Standing upright, feet shoulder width apart, toes forward, arms at the sides, palms facing forward.
Palms forward. Why?
It ensures the bones of the forearm, the radius, and ulna are uncrossed. It's just the agreed-upon standard. No matter how a patient is actually positioned, descriptions always relate back to this stance.
Okay. Standard reference. And lying down.
Prone is face down, supine is face up.
Prone, supine. Got it. And then there are names for body regions.
Yes, regional terms. Cephalic for head, cervical for neck, thoracic for chest, abdominal, brachial for the upper arm, femoral for the thigh, and so on. It allows for precise description. We also divide the body into axial head, neck, trunk, and appendicular the limbs.
Specific names for specific parts. Makes sense. What about those directional terms? Anterior, posterior.
Right. Those describe relative positions. They always come in pairs. Anterior or ventral means towards the front. Posterior or dorsal means towards the back.
Or back.
Okay. Superior or cranial means above. Inferior or caudal means below.
Top bottom.
Medial means towards the midline of the body. Lateral means away from the midline.
Midline side.
Then for limbs, proximal means closer to the trunk attachment point. Distal means further away.
Closer, further on limbs.
And finally, superficial or external means closer to the body's surface.
Right.
Deep or internal means further inside.
Surface inside. Okay, that clarifies things. And I've heard of body planes, sagittal, transverse.
Yes, planes are imaginary flat surfaces that pass through the body, like slicing it to see inside.
Slicing it.
A sagittal plane divides the body vertically into right and left parts. If it's right down the middle, equal halves, it's mid-sagittal. Off to the side, it's parasagittal.
Right, left slice.
A frontal or coronal plane also divides vertically, but into anterior, front, and posterior, back parts.
Not back slice.
And a transverse or horizontal plane divides the body horizontally into superior upper and inferior lower parts. This gives you cross sections.
Top bottom slice. Like cutting a loaf of bread different ways.
Exactly. These planes help us understand views from imaging or dissection.
And these views let us see inside the body cavities.
Right. The body isn't solid. It has internal spaces, cavities that protect organs and let them move or change shape.
What are the main ones?
There are two main sets. The dorsal cavities at the back, containing the cranial cavity for the brain and the spinal cavity for the spinal cord. Very well protected by bone.
Brain and spinal cord in the back. Dorsal.
And the ventral cavity is larger at the front. It's separated by the diaphragm muscle into the upper thoracic cavity.
The chest area.
Yes, containing the lungs in their own pleural cavities, and the heart in the pericardial cavity, which sits in a central region called the mediastinum.
Lungs and heart in the chest. Thoracic.
And below the diaphragm is the abdominopelvic cavity. The upper abdominal part holds digestive organs, spleen, kidneys. And the lower pelvic part holds the bladder, some reproductive organs, rectum.
Stomach, intestines, bladder down there. Abdominopelvic. Okay. And membranes line these cavities.
Yes. Particularly in the ventral cavity, many organs are lined by thin, double-layered serous membranes.
Double-layered.
There's a parietal layer lining the cavity wall and a visceral layer covering the organ surface. Between them is a tiny space filled with slippery, serous fluid.
Why the fluid?
It acts like a lubricant, reduces friction as organs move. Think of your lungs expanding and contracting with each breath, or your heart beating constantly. The membranes and fluid allow smooth, low-friction movement.
Like oil in an engine.
Sort of, yeah. We name them based on location. Pleura for the lungs, pericardium for the heart, peritoneum for the abdominopelvic cavity.
Pleura, pericardium, peritoneum. Got it. And for the abdomen specifically, there are ways to pinpoint locations even more. Quadrants.
Yes, very useful clinically. The simplest way is 4 quadrants. Right upper, left lower. imaginary horizontal and vertical lines crossing at the navel divide the area.
4 squares.
Right. So if a patient has pain in the right lower quadrant, doctors immediately think of things typically found there, like the appendix.
Helps narrow down possibilities. Is there a more detailed way?
There is also a 9-region system using more specific anatomical landmarks, but the 4 quadrants are very commonly used for quick localization.
Okay, so a whole system for mapping the body precisely. Now, how do we actually see inside without, cutting? Medical imaging, that's changed everything, hasn't it?
Absolutely revolutionized medicine and anatomy. For centuries, it was just external observation or dissection after death. Then came X-rays in the late 1800s.
X-rays, how do they work again?
They use electromagnetic radiation. It passes through soft tissues easily, but gets absorbed or blocked by denser stuff, like bones. So bones show up as white shadows on the film or detector.
Great for seeing fractures.
Exactly. But you get limited detail on soft tissues, and there's the issue of radiation exposure. Too much can damage cells, so it's used judiciously.
Right. And CT scans are related.
Yes, computed tomography. A CT scanner takes multiple X-ray beams from different angles around the body. A computer then pieces these together to create detailed cross-sectional images, like looking at slices. Much better soft tissue detail than standard X-ray.
But more radiation.
Typically, yes, a higher dose.
Yeah.
There's also angiography, where they inject a contrast dye that shows up on X-rays to visualize blood vessels.
Okay, so X-ray-based methods are one major tool. What about non-radiation methods? MRI.
Right, magnetic resonance imaging. Totally different principle. Uses powerful magnetic fields and radio waves.
How does that make an image?
It interacts with the protons, mostly in water molecules, in your body tissues. Different tissues respond differently, and the scanner detects these signals to create incredibly detailed images, especially of soft tissues, brain, muscles, ligaments, organs. No ionizing radiation involved.
That sounds like a big advantage.
It is. And fMRI, functional MRI, can even show brain activity by tracking changes in blood flow associated with neural activity.
Wow. Downsides.
Well, MRIs are expensive, the scan takes longer, the machine is noisy, and some people feel claustrophobic inside the scanner tube. Plus, the strong magnet means patients with certain metal implants, like older pacemakers, can't have one.
Trade-offs, as always. What else is in the imaging toolkit?
PET scans positron emission tomography. This one shows function, not just structure. You're given a small amount of a radioactive tracer, often attached to a sugar molecule. Active cells take up more sugar, so areas with high metabolic activity, like tumors or active brain regions, light up on the scan. It shows physiology in action.
Seeing how things are working or not working.
Exactly. Useful for cancer detection, heart problems, neurological disorders.
Okay. One more, ultrasound.
Ultrasonography uses high-frequency sound waves bounced off internal structures to create an image. Think sonar.
Like for checking pregnancies?
That's the most common use, yes. It's great because it's non-invasive, uses no radiation, is relatively inexpensive, and provides real-time images. You can see movement.
This is ideal. Any limitations?
Image quality can depend a lot on the skill of the operator and the patient's body type. And sound waves don't travel well through bone or gas, so it's not great for looking at lungs or structures hidden behind bones.
So a whole range of tools, each with strengths and weaknesses to look inside us. This has been, well, a really deep dive from atoms all the way up to systems, homeostasis, the language we use. It's incredibly complex.
It is. And the key thing really is how interconnected it all is. Anatomy and physiology, structure and function, all these levels working together dynamically.
Yeah, that constant balancing act of homeostasis.
And hopefully understanding these fundamentals, as our sources aim to show, really does empower you, the listener, to understand your own health better, make sense of medical information.
Gives you context. Absolutely. So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with.
How about this? Just consider how all that intricate organization, right down at the chemical and cellular level, how that ultimately enables everything you experience, your thoughts, your movements, your feelings. The whole complex human being arises from these fundamental biological principles.
It makes you wonder, isn't it? What other questions does this spark for you about your own amazing body? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.